Welcome back to another episode of Born Again Bow Hunting Podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit of a breakdown of me and Jaret's season, I guess. Old Matt's going to run the Q&A here for us.
Yeah,
so we have,
you boys are in trouble.
we have no idea what's coming.
So yeah, basically we're going to run into this podcast talking about your guys' season. Technically in Ohio we have, 2 weekends left?
Yep, 2 weeks.
2 weeks left. But unless things change, obviously we want them to change. We want you guys to kill.
Yep.
But unless something changes, I kind of just wanted to talk about, everybody talks about success. You don't really hear a lot of people talking about the other end of the story. And I just kind of want to break down your guys' season. I've got some questions, some specific questions, but I guess just to kind of get our listeners on the same page, just talk about your Ohio deer season. Don't have to get into super specific, but just talk about maybe some opportunities that you had, because I know both of you had opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I'm going to dive into some real specific questions. So very broad, but just talk about your season.
You want to go first or you want me?
Doesn't matter to me. I'll go.
Okay.
You want me to go? So up until, I guess, preseason trail cameras and stuff, I hadn't got anything super crazy on camera or anything like that. And then maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the season opened, the buck that we now call Kim showed up, and he was pretty consistent for those 2 weeks before season. So I was feeling pretty good about it. I didn't know where exactly I would need to be on the property and what he was doing, but he was consistent on a couple cameras. So that got me fired up. Jaret sat with me opening day, and we sat kind of in a spot where I have sat in the past and had a lot of luck with deer numbers at least. Felt good about it. We seen one doe.
Isn't that the spot where you said you guys saw 30 spikes the one year, or 4?
It was close to it. We saw one of the most timber sits I'd ever been on, and saw the most deer. Then that was the year previous.
Yeah.
How many bucks did you guys end up seeing? I remember you guys told me some kind of asinine
13
number.
or something.
Something like that. So we had a group of 3 or 4 of them at a time, pretty much.
And they were everything was year and a half, maybe
just
2
little dinks.
Yeah, dude.
The biggest one that came through was about that, but maybe an 8 point. Just came through.
It was
cruising
crazy.
around.
Your Indiana buck.
Well,
Yeah,
no. We saw that 3-year-old. He came straight at us, remember, along that edge, and he came right to the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He came in behind me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but back to this season, we seen one doe, and she came in downwind of us, blew at us, and Jaret was like, "Man, we hardly ever get blown at here." And it's true. Most of the time, you don't get blown at, but this year I got blown a few times.
They're learning your stank.
They are. They know, because previously nobody really hunted this farm, so it was pretty much untouched up until this is my 3rd season hunting it. So I guess to go later into the season, typically I can only hunt on Saturdays just because that's the way it works with the work schedule and just stuff going on. So it's
church on Sundays.
Yep, church on Sundays, and then typically on Sunday afternoons it's family stuff. So just hanging out with Sarah and stuff like that. So limited to pretty much 1 day a week. Really, it was very slow this year for me. I had opportunities on some does, but I was always I want to hold out on does until later. I guess I don't know the property good enough to just be okay, well, this area I only see does and I can make it a doe hunt type thing. So I'm always man, do I shoot a doe or do I wait, because who knows what's kind of coming next. Had some opportunities. This one time I sat on, this was I don't know, well, it would have been before we went to Indiana, mid-October. Early October. I sat along this power line cut, and I seen probably the most amount of deer I've seen there. 15, 20 does and fawns, a couple small bucks, and then right at last light, 3 bigger bucks. I mean, nothing I wanted to shoot at that point in the season, came through on a tractor path and dumped out into this power cut. And then when it got dark, I actually heard some bigger deer back in the timber, fighting, more than just tickling some tines. They were kind of going at it a little bit hard.
Things were getting spicy.
Yeah. So after that, I checked out where they were at and found a scrape, so I hung a camera there. Kim hit that a few times, and then that was pretty much it. Like, that scrape just like dried up. So I don't know if like, well, me and Jaret hunted over that one time too. And I don't know if like us just being there maybe like soiled that or what, but like it just dried up then, and just like they weren't using it anymore.
I mean,
don't know.
when we hunted it, we had done some walking around before, like previously. I don't remember if it was that day or if it was like the day before or something, but I don't think that spoiled it.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so. I personally don't think that walking around is going to bother,
Yeah.
especially during our area. Maybe if we were a little bit south, like southern Ohio, where you have giant tracts of timber,
more secluded.
where they don't really smell a lot of human activity, at least that fresh. You got to think about the amount of houses,
Yeah.
cars, roads.
And that spot where we had set was not terribly far from a road.
Right.
And there was, when we left that morning, there was a lady walking down the road. So,
Yeah.
you know, people are walking around there all the time.
Yeah, especially around us. They smell humans every single day.
And like the property owner, him and his family use that for like kind of like a little hiking area too. So I mean,
Correct.
people are in there
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
a bit.
And
So,
the deer are still in there.
right.
I mean, if they didn't like it or if they didn't like being bumped, they wouldn't be in there.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
obviously, they're okay with it.
Yeah.
Because you would be, I mean, them monarch does would take their fawns somewhere else.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's not that much pressure.
Right. And there's been a lot of does in there this year.
And then what I would go off of is, you said that Kim kind of disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was working that scrape. Maybe he was in there early and you just
Didn't know because I didn't know about that scrape until
Yeah.
that set where I was by the power line cut and I heard those deer back there.
And
Then I went and checked it out.
I've always found that a mature buck likes to leave like mid-October to his fall range.
Mm-hmm.
So like around the 16th to like 20th, I've found that they transition. So maybe he was there early and then just left.
Yeah, that's
And
very
that's what
possible.
abandoned that scrape.
Because and typically like I'll find scrapes on beech trees, and this was on a oak tree. So like all the other scrapes are in the timber part are on these beech trees. And I thought that was kind of odd that it was under an oak tree, just because it's uncommon for that area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it could have just been like what you said, like he was using that and that was his scrape pretty much, and then he left and it just dried up.
So let's for the listeners that don't know Kim, what is this Kim that you're speaking of?
Kim is probably he's definitely my most consistent buck, and it's a target buck. I would say we've all kind of guessed probably around 160 or mid 160s.
He's in the 60s.
Yeah.
In the 60s, correct.
He's
So
not
he's
like a low end 60. He's up in the 60s.
He's
Yeah.
a big 9-point.
Huge,
Yeah.
huge 9
got
point.
that tine length.
So
Yeah,
old
giant frame, long tines.
Yep.
Kind of. I don't want to say spindly because he's not,
he's not very heavy.
but he's not heavy.
No.
Like
And
he probably has better mass than you think because of his frame
right.
and
Yeah.
how big he actually is.
If you put your hands on him, you'd
but he
be
doesn't.
like,
he doesn't look like he has like 8-inch bases or
Right.
anything.
No. And his brow tines are like this mule deer shed. They're like 2.5 inches. They're not very
Yeah.
big at all.
Yeah.
Which that's been kind of true in this area as far as trail camera pictures on deer. Just
brow tines
no
are
brow
weak.
tines other than
Yeah, that
One
Kanye
killed-
from last year.
Kanye that you killed last year. Hence Kanye and Kim.
So I guess coming back from Indiana, I set up on one of my food plots that I set up.
So let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Kind of rewind. First out of state buck, right?
Yep.
First out of state deer.
First out of state tag period.
Period. And you filled on the second day.
Second day of hunting.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was excited about that. I mean, that there made my season.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just for doing that, you know.
yeah. You can't.
And-
you can't argue with
And
that.
plus, so we went to. I've never hunted Kentucky. We went to Kentucky this year. I filmed in Kentucky, and then I hunted in Indiana. So without like this, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do that. To do 3 states in 1 year. You know, Ohio, the home state, and then Kentucky for velvet season, and Indiana for our public meetup
yeah.
with a couple YouTube pages. So that was really cool.
That was I had a lot of fun this year.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I kind of went
no,
on that
no,
train,
you're
but
good.
I wanted everybody to realize that you killed in Indiana.
Yep.
Your first out of state tag on the second day of hunting.
Yep.
Now we're back in Ohio.
And I was excited about that because I was like, man, I can have a 2-buck year this year because that in Ohio it's a 1-buck state period.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So I was excited about that. I mean, there's still a chance.
Yep.
But it's dwindling down now.
Yeah, you got
Two Saturdays left.
I'm praying for you guys, but it's getting down to the wire.
So I set up on my one food plot that was like kind of just a clover plot, and it didn't turn out so good. But I was like
half acre. Is that what it?
yeah, it's just a very small.
Yeah.
It's so all these are, I guess, what people would consider like a micro plot or like a kill plot type thing.
Poor man's plot.
Yeah, it was just like a bag of seed going out there, and the landowner actually tilled it up for me, and I just threw seed down, and what took this year because I got in a little bit late and I wanted to give it a shot. So next year I'm going to do it a little bit earlier, kind of play the weather, that type of stuff. So anyway, I'm sitting up on this little plot here, and this
is late October.
This is late October. There's a couple small saplings, and there's always like scrapes that wrap around this little. There's like 5 trees there, little brushy trees, and it seems like a good meeting point from the one property where they kind of dump out into this property, and there's normally like 3 or 4 scrapes there. So I'm kind of sitting over there, and I don't know, it's like 8 o'clock. This little buck comes through there, and typically I would have considered shooting him, but this year I was like, I want to hold out for something a little bit bigger, and so I turned my GoPro on, and the GoPro was like on my back on a different tree, so it could see the scrape stuff too. And then I got my big camera on him, so he comes up, works that scrape for a little bit, and then he kind of backtracks a little bit, and then he jumps over and goes into the neighboring property. And then I actually had a couple small bucks do kind of the opposite. They came from my right and then hit the scrapes, and then they kind of followed where he went. So that was kind of cool to see where they're actually entering the property, after they hit that scrape and stuff, because I figured they would hit that scrape and then move on down like along the food plot and then dump down into the big timber or something like that. But they just came to that scrape and then just went right over to the thick stuff in the neighbor's property. So I really liked that spot. So I sat there, not consecutively, but a few times, just because of the good amount of movement coming through there and the potential of something coming off that thick stuff to hit that scrape. And I was hoping maybe Kim did. But at this point in time, Kim was like not even around, period. He would come through once every maybe month, and it was all nighttime activity. So I got a couple of nighttime pictures of him here and there, and that was it. And then kind of the rut started to roll through, and Kim started to show up a little bit more. Again, it was all nighttime stuff. And then I had another big, like probably 180s come through, and I got one set of pictures of him.
Absolute giant
tank.
I got him on a Tasco. Of all cameras to have out there, he hit this Tasco, and he was working the scrape for a while. So since then, I put a cell cam there. But that scrape kind of just fizzled out,
he
too.
was just a rut buck that was coming through.
Yeah, he was just cruising through the area.
Absolute giant.
When I was scrolling through there on my camera, checking the card one take, going in, I just stopped and froze on that thing. I'm like, holy smokes. Like, I've never got a picture of a deer that big before in my life. And he was huge.
Yeah, Kim's big. But this deer makes Kim look.
And so this deer came through at, say, 3 o'clock in the morning. Kim came through then at like 4:30. So it was like big buck and then Kim like right after him. And Kim looked small compared to him. It was insane.
Yeah. Talking a deer that can make a 160-inch deer look small. That's a
big
giant.
Yeah, that's a big deer.
Yeah.
That's a giant.
And he was like a very clean looking deer too. Like,
he had the mass though.
Yeah.
That's what made him more impressive. Is like he had the frame, a little bit bigger than Kim, had the tine length. Like what? He had more tine.
Yeah,
right?
he was. Yeah, I want to say
12?
he was a 12 point. Yeah.
But the mass.
Oh, he was heavy deer, and he carried it all the way up through too.
All through his beams.
Through the main beams, yeah.
Giant.
He was a big deer.
I wish he would have showed up a little bit more.
Yeah, me too. Well, I guess I'll know for next year, like, hang a cell cam right there to start with.
Yeah.
And know when he's in the area.
Look back at that date range.
Maybe make a move on him easier.
He's the type of deer that if he would have got killed, somebody would.
Yeah, we would have been able to see that one.
Yeah.
We would have seen that picture.
I think so.
Somebody would have said the county, and we'd have been like, "Holy moly!"
Or somebody would have sent it to the neighbor guy that there or something like that. I would assume.
Yeah, we would have known about it.
Yeah, but he just He was there that one time, and then he just vanished. So, like
Gone.
you said, he was a rut buck, just cruising through, looking for hot does, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So really, I didn't have many opportunities on bucks this year that were shootable. Like a lot of 1.5-year-olds, maybe a couple 2-year-olds. That one that hit that scrape was probably the only 3-year-old. I would classify him as a 3-year-old that I even really had an opportunity on. So I guess roll into gun season.
Yeah, let's roll into the encounter.
Gun season rolls in on the so I hunt Monday.
Take off of work.
I took off work for the gun opener here in Ohio for Monday. It was very slow. Like even shots in the neighborhood were very, very quiet. Like not very much going on. It would have been that Thursday or Friday. I remember I'm at work, and all of a sudden, Kim shows up, and then this other mystery buck shows up like right in front of my camera, and I send you guys a picture. You're like, you got to take off work and go kill one of those deer. I'm like, man,
I said, Kevin,
I can't.
get out, son, run.
You guys are all on me. Hey, you got to go get that thing right now. Well, it turns out I didn't do that, obviously. But
That was your first mistake.
That's happened a few times there. You guys tell me to go kill this deer, so these two Kim and this random buck show up.
What caliber is the random buck?
High 140s probably.
Is it the one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he's definitely high 40s.
Yeah. He's a solid deer. So I actually, looking back now, I filmed him in velvet out in the bean field.
Well, that's cool.
And didn't realize it was him at the time.
Wait, is that the video that you sent me?
Yep. It's one of the reels.
Yep.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
He's a good deer.
Just clicked, yeah.
Yeah. Because, I was going through my phone the one day, and I'm, just looking at my velvet stuff.
Yeah, because you can definitely tell from, the G2s.
G2s and G3s are about the same length.
Now that you said it, it's like instant click in my head. That's that deer.
So I thought that was kind of a cool connection then.
Yeah.
He's been around.
Yeah,
At first when I got a picture of him, I thought he was just some random buck that showed up. But, no, he was kind of like a home farm buck type thing.
Yeah.
So he showed up, and then, so I went out Saturday. Nothing really happened. Actually, just me went out Saturday. Nothing happened. So then the following weekend, I couldn't hunt for some reason. I forget why. Then the following weekend after that is the extended gun in Ohio. So it's a 2-day, like a bonus gun season. I went out Saturday, and
that's when everything happened.
Everything went south. That was like our first snow.
Yeah. The first snow that stuck.
It was more than a dusting. Like the ground was fairly covered with snow.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cold too.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in this tree expecting movement. So I'm facing the tree in my saddle, and I'm facing southwest a little bit of the property, expecting them to come from this thick bedding to come out of there and transition, just move around how they typically have in the past. Well, it's 9:30 or so, and I'm thinking, okay, it's about time to get down. I'm getting cold. My feet are cold. Not really anything moving. It's time to get down. Maybe I'll move to a different spot this afternoon. Well, I look behind me, and a couple does kind of start to come out.
Here he comes.
I'm like, all right, hold out here a little bit. I don't want to shoot a doe, but let's see what's coming. And then 3 small bucks come, 1.5-year-old bucks come, and then all of a sudden I just see this big buck come out, and I'm like, oh, this is it. I'm going to shoot him for sure. So I get the camera around. So I'm using a muzzleloader. I get the gun off the hanger there in front of me, get turned around, and it's at a really awkward position because he's right behind me. I can't use the tree for a rest. I can't use my tether for any kind of stability or anything like that. And earlier that morning, when I was actually setting up, a doe and 2 fawns came through, and they wind busted me. So, and in this group of deer, there's, 5 or 6 does, 3 small bucks, and then this big buck. And where the does were, my scent cone was going that way. So I'm like, I got to make this fast because they're going to bust me here.
In your head, you were already rushing yourself.
Absolutely.
Because of that.
Absolutely. And I was kind of frantic too, because I'm like, so at this point, he's probably about 75, 80 yards. Didn't even range him. I knew he was within 100 yards. In years past, I've shot my muzzleloader dead on at 100 yards. So I'm like, okay, well, I can make this shot, no problem. I just got to get steady. But I rushed myself. So I cock the hammer back, and all the deer are moving from, I'm facing them now from my left to my right. So I just kind of pan the camera over to where the does were, figuring he's going to follow that exact same path. I can get steady, make the shot. Well, he stopped short of where the does were. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to make this shot now because those does are getting very close to where my scent cone is. So I didn't even worry about the camera. I got him on film beforehand, and then I was going to shoot and get him back on camera. Well, I shoot, gun goes off, bang, white smoke, deer's still standing there. All these deer are standing there like nothing happens. So at this point in time, well, I got the camera back on him, and he kind of like just trots off a little bit, continuing to go to my right. So I'm like, get into my bag, get my quick reload, dump the powder in there, and I'm shaking at this point because I'm pretty excited. I'm excited and I'm ticked at myself because I missed.
He's only pouring in 60 grains of 100 grains of powder.
I'm shaking. Yeah. Get the powder down in there, get the bullet, get it reloaded, get ready to go, and I'm like, well, they're gone for sure. Well, and I look over there and they're still there, and I can see the buck. Like if I swing on the opposite side of the tree and get my binos out, like he's there just kind of milling around. I can't believe that one, none of them ran from the gunshot, and two, just none of them wind sended me and just blew and got out of there.
Yeah.
I'm mad at myself at this point, and he comes back to my left, and at this point he's closer to the 100-yard range. So I let my tether out a little bit and kind of like hunker down up against the tree with my back, and I feel a lot more steady at this point. I didn't mess with the camera. I was like, I got to shoot this deer because I'm so mad at myself.
Yep.
So cock back with the hammer, I'm sorry. Start to squeeze off the trigger, and gun goes off again, white smoke, and the sucker's still just standing there. Missed again, clean miss.
What Kevin doesn't know is that the actual bullet just
It just fell out of the end of the barrel.
Because he only got half the powder in there.
half charged powder.
And at this point, I'm extremely ticked at myself. And the deer just kind of like goes straight away from me another 30 or 40 yards, bounds over the fence, and then he's off into the neighbor's property. And all the does kind of just like, they didn't run away, but they left at this point. And I'm so ticked off at myself. Like probably the maddest I've ever been in a long time at myself. Like, I considered throwing the gun out of the tree mad, and I was fired up.
Kevin wraps the gun around the tree and just walks home.
And also, I mean, this isn't any kind of more of an excuse, but this is your first year self-filming, so I'm sure when he was coming in and you were trying to get the camera going and trying to get him on film and everything, it's just another whole mind thing. Yeah.
Because I wanted to get it on camera.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's the main point of
why you do it all year.
And filming it. Yeah. So you're lugging this camera gear around and stuff. You want to get it all on film. So needless to say, I was very ticked off at myself. Got down out of that tree so fast and made a beeline back to the truck and just went home at this point. I was mad. And then I hunted a little bit between the extended gun and muzzleloader season, but like Christmas is in that time, and New Year's, just a lot of stuff going on, and typically that's Saturday activity for the holiday stuff with family. So didn't have a lot of time to hunt. Muzzleloader season rolls around. Saturday I took my dad out to this property. Movement was a little bit slow, so we went and got lunch, came back around, and I was like, well, let's drive around the property drive around the block because this back part of the property butts up to this big CRP field, and they mowed like part of it. And I didn't know what the opposite side looked like. So we just drove around. They mowed pretty much that whole CRP field. And we're going around the block here, and Dad's like, well, there's a couple deer. So I get up to a high point, try to glass them. I could see one small buck, and he's like, well, I knew there was a bigger buck there. So at this point, I couldn't see him, so I'm like, well, let's just drive around right back by them, see if they're still there. And they had made their way up the fence row tree line a couple 100 yards. So we drive up the road a little bit, and at this point, I can see it's a big buck. I think it's this one that I missed originally. And they're making kind of a run for the back of the property where we have permission at. So I'm like, well, let's get back there. So I drive around the block, get up to the driveway, pull in there, park. I'm like, well, I'm just going to run back here where there's a good chance they're just going to run right along this field edge, jump into the woods here, that's my best opportunity to shoot one of these deer. So I run back there, and one doe comes back through there, and I could tell it's one of these from that group because her mouth is open, and you can tell she's running more than just, a couple hundred yards. She's been on the move for a while, but that was the only thing that came through. Made it my best effort for the situation that I had to make something happen there, but it just didn't work out.
Yep.
I do want to touch back. So when I missed that deer, I was mad at myself, like really, really mad. And, after I calmed down, cooled down, thought about it a little bit, I'm like, well, maybe this is God telling me, like, you're hunting too much. You're putting hunting before everything else. And that's kind of true because it's like, man, when you think about it, our season comes in the last Saturday in September, and it goes out, the first
weekend of February.
And I don't know how many days that is, but it's a limited number of days if you only hunt Saturday and possibly a Sunday afternoon out of a whole year. And you put all this time as far as scouting, putting food plots in, if you do that, running cameras, all this stuff. You want to make the best of opportunity that you have for yourself over this time. And I think I was putting this before, like, some family stuff. Not like I didn't go, but I didn't enjoy myself when I went to, like, a birthday party or a get-together of some sort, because I'm like, man, I could be hunting. And it rubs it in when you're, like, at a get-together and somebody's like, well, you haven't shot a deer yet? And one time...
I would if I wasn't sitting right here.
That's my thought. And one time I think it was at a Thanksgiving, somebody asked me, well, you haven't shot a deer yet? Well, it's not like I haven't had opportunities. And
right.
Kim daylighted that day, and I was ticked about that. But it's like the family side is more important. So I think maybe that was God telling me, like, hey, hunting can be important in your life, but don't make it the top priority. Mm-hmm. Like, family comes first, friends come first, and then you can enjoy hunting and stuff.
Yeah.
So after I thought about that, like, it put it in perspective. Like, I took it way too serious probably for what it is. And just, I guess that was my reasoning, or that was my thought process of, like, why I missed that deer 2 times and had the opportunity. And God was like, here's your opportunity, but I don't know. Maybe it was just like your buck in Indiana, like maybe the same type of thing. I don't know. I just thought of it that way. I don't know.
Could be. We don't. I mean, honestly, we don't know.
Yeah. And it was just like after I calmed down, like that ran through my head a couple days in a row, and I'm like, well, maybe that's why. You know.
Yeah.
So I guess fast forward until this time frame now. I hadn't put corn out at all this year, and then a couple weeks ago I put some corn out. Well, I think it was after Christmas when it got really cold, or after muzzleloader season.
It was after muzzleloader season.
Yeah, it was after muzzleloader season. I just put corn out to see what was in the area, give the deer some food, and just see what kind of inventory I can take. And I didn't hunt over it until last week. I was like, well, this is the only food source around that they know about. I'm going to hunt over it. A couple does came in, but the wind was kind of goofy. Like it started out as a southeast wind, and then it changed to a northeast wind. So it's like, how do you set up on that? Because it was just very one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
No luck there. But then Sunday we got this big snowstorm when we were in church, and I went out after church was done, set up in this killer tree because I'm like, I know I have good cover and I can shoot my bait site. Well, I didn't realize that the main entrance to this place is like 3 to 5 yards right beside me. So a couple of them jumped the fence, and it's like all fawns. I'm like, I'm not going to shoot a fawn, period. I don't want to do that. That's just me. But a doe was over there. A couple does were there. One jumped the fence. Like, she seen me, but she didn't realize what I was. She jumped the fence and kind of was looking away. The other doe jumps the fence, and she's at like 5 yards. I'm like, this is perfect. So I get her on camera, get my bow off the hanger, and go to draw back in like the angle that it is. And I know I can't like bring my bow up and down. I get about 3/4 draw, and that's it. I can't pull the bow back anymore. I didn't even tell you guys this. And I don't know if it's because I'm so cold and all the layers and like the angle. I just could not get the bow back. So then I let down, and she's still there. So I bring the bow up just a little bit to try to get a better pullback, and she saw that movement and was gone. So I'm ticked at myself. No blowing. They just got out of there.
Off.
So I'm like, are you serious? Like, I can't pull this bow back. So I do the same thing in my head, like, okay, there's a deer there, and I go to pull the bow back, and I can't get it back. It's like 3/4. I can't do it. But then I brought it up here like how I wanted to. No problem at all.
It must have been just the
It's
angle.
just the angle and like, yeah, layers
Kevin
being
needs to hit
pulled.
the gym.
I need to maybe get some 50-pound mods or something.
You need to just set a target down here and just shoot
I do.
once a week.
I haven't shot in a long time though.
10
and
yards,
that's part
man.
of it.
Just
Dude,
5
I'll
yards.
be shooting this all the time back here.
Yeah.
In your
So
basement.
that leads me up to this current point in time, I guess, for my season. Yeah. Couldn't get the bow back on a doe that it was like at seriously like 5
Was that buck
yards.
fever that locked him up?
Oh my.
Yeah. So I've had opportunities
Yeah,
this year.
plenty.
I just
Yeah.
a couple of them I didn't want to take because it wasn't the right buck. A couple of them I missed, and then this latest one just couldn't get the bow back.
And also, I kind of want to mention, obviously we all thought that Kevin's muzzleloader was off because
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Kev's,
I was gonna say that too, but I did.
Kev's a pretty good shot. And, we were like, all right, just make sure you sight it in before muzzleloader season.
Yep.
And old Kevy goes out, and sends us a Snapchat, sends the group the Snapchat of him. All right, gonna go shoot the muzzleloader or whatever, and then just pinwheels to at like 100
It
yards.
was, yeah, so like I was shooting at something the size of my fist, and the first shot is free-handed, and it'd be like, an inch off and an inch low of hitting my circle, and then I used the rest for the other two, and I'm like inch and a half off of the other two at like 95 yards or something like
He
that.
sends us a Snapchat
jeez.
of a group that's like no bigger than my palm.
Yeah. So the gun's on.
And he's like, well, gun's not off, that's for sure.
It was me. But that second shot felt so good. Like in the moment, it felt good.
I wonder if you might have hit a limb. I mean, there's so many variables in the woods.
Yeah, there really is.
There is.
Like you could have hit a limb both times, maybe. Like who knows?
I know the first shot for sure I rushed it just
Yeah.
because I was worried about
The wind.
yes.
Your scent and everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Alright.
yeah. So that was my season.
Yeah, you've had a good season.
I have.
You've had a very.
I have.
Well, yeah, you think about it. I mean, you got to kill a deer, not in Ohio.
Yep.
And this year you got to chase your biggest deer ever.
Yep.
So, what more could you ask for?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's been a fun season. And yesterday, Kim was hitting that bait pile up until like 10:30.
Oh my.
He hit it like 3
gosh.
times yesterday morning.
Oh my gosh. Just make sure that if you hunt it late season.
When you said go kill Kim, I almost texted back, watch your words, because I will sneak up there and send an arrow so fast.
just
So-
glass the top of their heads. Oh, Kim could be shed.
Shoot a doe. That's Kim.
Oh, that'd be so bad.
So
I would cry. I would
That'd
cry.
be so bad.
You
So
walk up and his pedicles on his base
Just-
are like the size of pop cans
I'm almost considering
cry.
hunting on the ground the rest of the year.
because of being skylined or what?
Yeah, just because the tree.
I
like,
was
the
definitely
canopy's
naked
empty.
the
Yeah.
other day. I was like, I feel so naked up here.
So when I was up there Sunday afternoon, like all the branches and stuff had a ton of snow on it, so I had cover there. Plus, I had good cover at that one tree. But if they're going to use that path right beside me,
Plus, you're
I
in
can't-
snow camo. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't see even snow camo.
No.
Listen, boys, if you're wearing Osseo like me, son, that
Yeah.
great horned owl just vanishes up there.
Big owl up there, bud.
Big birdie up
That's
there.
an owl that could carry you away.
So I'm really considering hunting on the ground the rest for the next 2
Yeah.
sits that I do.
And hopefully we have a podcast where one of you boys are talking about holding old mega meats in
I
your
hope
hand.
so.
But all right, Jerry. Wait, what are we at, Ken?
We're at a half
Half hour.
33 minutes. I did some rambling.
That's all right.
Mine
That's all
won't
right.
go that long.
Give us like a 10-minute rundown because I do have some questions that I want to ask.
Yeah. So, leading up to this season, I did not have the size of deer that I normally do.
Dude,
Okay,
that-
I had one set of pictures of the biggest buck I've ever
typical?
seen, but that was that was one day. He was in there one day, so he was just moving through.
Yeah, but that thing was.
Yes, that thing was massive.
Dude, that's like.
But I did not have the
booger.
consistent size that I normally do. But I had a couple good deer, a couple good 3.5-year-olds that I was like, dude, I will shoot them. And so I had one nice 10-point. He's probably, maybe 140. And I had him in there the first couple weeks of season, and I was I was getting on him pretty good. I actually should have killed him like 3 times, but this new area that I'd gotten into that he was consistent daylighting, I would go in earlier in the day and get everything set up because I wanted to be in there good and early. And the wind would always switch. And like Matt and I were talking before, I'm not sure if I would have stayed longer and like let the day wind settle. And if because I mean, all my apps would say that the wind is supposed to be, I don't know, what was it? Like
It doesn't matter.
yeah, but it would always kind of be blowing that way, but there would be too many inconsistent breezes going the absolute wrong way.
Almost like the opposite way.
Almost.
Yeah.
It was super weird. And now that I'm really diving into it, I think it's just the terrain. I just think the wind gets kind of sucked there, which I'm gonna have to move. But so I would get set up and the wind would be good, and then it would the later and then the evening when the deer are about to start coming out, it would switch. And I would be like, I just can't sit here and watch a deer come out and just, run off. So I would literally scurry down, tear my set down as fast as I could. And as soon as I would get out of there, boom, that deer would be there. And I mean, I'm talking, I was set up probably three, maybe if not 4 times where I was set up and then ended up getting down because the wind would be wrong right when I would think he would come out, and he would come out every time, dude. My cell cam's just ping, 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 sending me pictures of him just standing there, and I'm like,
He's cheesing. He's over there just.
It was frustrating. So I did not have a ton of encounters with nice bucks for like the first long stint of my season. And nor did I have the bucks in there like as in the spot as normal. So I don't know. I wasn't bummed though because this has been a big year for me. I got married and my wife and I are having our first child. So this has just been a busy year.
Kentucky?
Yeah, Kentucky. I shot my first velvet buck, which was awesome. So I just had a really busy first section of this year. But so we got, after I shot my buck in Kentucky, we came back and I had a couple good hunts at that 10 point that I was chasing, but I never got on him. And then he left. And when he left, all the bucks that I had on camera on this property left. Super weird. Never had that happen before. I mean, I'm talking like they were just all gone. And there was one buck left. He was on the smaller side of my list of bucks. And, but dude, I was going to shoot him just because I just didn't on there was like 3 properties that I was running cameras on and stuff. And it was like, there's just not deer. And so I was like, man, I'd shoot this. He's a young 3-year-old.
Jerry's a killer.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, I'm going to fill this tag. So I kind of got this deer figured out, and Matt came with me. This was like
late October.
Yeah.
Because this was when Bumpy died, and I didn't have a deer to chase.
Yes. So I was like, Matt, why don't you come with me?
Yeah.
And I got this deer kind of figured out, and I'm going to shoot him for sure if he comes through.
Yeah.
So we went and got set up and saw the deer right off the bat in the morning, right after daylight, like I thought we would. He didn't come our way. He kind of went out probably, 80 yards. And the way that he was going, I told him, I'm like, dude, that deer is going to come back around. He's going to come behind us. He's going to come right past us. We sat there for probably 2 hours, which I have no idea what he was doing in between that time. Like, I'm like flabbergasted at where he went. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I just kind of peeked my head around, and that deer is heading right at our tree.
Yeah, like 20 yards.
Yeah. I just turn around and I'm like, oh my gosh, there he is.
There he is.
I'm like, Matt buck right here. So I grab my bow and I turn around, and he's walking down the path that we walked in on, and he's heading right for the tree. He's probably at 20 yards. And Matt's like getting the camera turned around and everything, and he just, you can see it in his face. He hits our scent, and he just like, locks up.
Not your ground scent though, because he came in on.
No, well, our scent was probably dropping down there a little bit. So whether if he hit our ground scent or he hit, our scent cone, whatever. Yeah. But his eyes got real big, and we were both just kind of like, ooh. Yeah. So he does a couple bounds, and in the moment in my head, I'm like, man, I'm guessing he's like 30-ish, maybe a little bit past that. just, split second. I'm like, as he's bounding, I'm drawing.
You drew as he bounded.
I'm drawing. So Matt and I are both like, meh, meh, meh,
We're
meh.
both screaming at this thing.
And finally he stops broadside. And in my head, I'm like, man, he's got to be third. Because in my head, I'm always thinking stuff's farther. So I'm like, man, he's 30s. And my pin normally is set at 20, but I had it set at 25. So I hold my pin right on his back and just let it go, and it just soars right over his. I'm like, perfect. If it would have just been lower, dude, it just would have crushed it.
Old Jerry hit behind the pin.
Oh,
He would
absolutely.
have aimed center mass with his 25-yard pin.
Yeah, it would have just crushed
It
him.
would have crushed him.
Yeah.
But I just soared one over his back, and he just went galloping over across the fence, out in the field. And we're like, man, that stinks. And that was the only deer we saw that day. Like, he did exactly what I said he was going to do. I mean, he did everything I told Matt. I'm like, we're going to see him out in front of us, and then when he came through, I'm like, he's going to come behind us, and he did exactly that. So it was cool to have that interaction, but man, that really stunk to miss that deer.
I gotta find that footage.
Yeah.
Was I filming that on my camera?
Yeah.
Was I using my SL2?
I think so.
Everything?
I think so.
I'm a little bit nervous now. I think I cleaned all my memory
If
cards.
not, I know that I have the video of me missing it. So I mean,
don't remember.
if we need to, we can.
Yeah, but we
just,
definitely need to do a video on it. But
it was cool.
Oh, that makes me nervous. I don't know if I have that footage.
So that was actually probably my best day this season of whitetail hunting because I missed that buck in the morning. I was kind of down, but honestly, I don't know. I was okay. And
I keep asking to come film you late season.
yeah, I
but
know.
you won't
I should
hit
just
me
let you
up.
stick with me the whole day.
You won't hit me up.
Well, we'll get there. So later,
Listen, I was with you when you shot that doe.
yeah,
In 72-yard doe in Kentucky. I was with you when you shot your buck.
yeah,
I was with you in Ohio when you missed your buck.
yeah. You weren't with me for the rest of the day, which you should have been.
Yeah.
All right, well, maybe we'll have to go here.
Late season.
So later that day, I decided to sit in a stand that we hadn't sat in with my bow. Like, I don't even think we'd ever bow hunted this little spot. So I was like, I'm just going to go sit there because, I mean, I already missed a buck today. So,
what's it going to hurt?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
worse can happen?
So I'm sitting there and I'm sitting on my phone. I'm kind of looking at the map. I'm trying to figure out like exactly what's going to happen here while I'm sitting here. And it starts to get dark and I look over and I can just see white horns kind of coming through a thick spot. And I was like, oh my goodness, a buck's going to come right through there. And I got him all on film. He was doing a horizontal rub on a vine. It was super cool. And he comes in, and the crazy thing was he was downwind of me. He came where I didn't want a deer to come from, which is how it always happens. And he came into like 25 yards and he smells me, and he can't. But the thing is, he can't see me. It's the coolest thing. He can smell me, but he's looking around. He can't see me, so he's just standing there, just stomping his leg. And I think he does it 6 times. He's just boom, boom, but he can't see me. And he must.
This is a big deer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was
This is a solid deer.
just a straight 8, huge 8 point.
Like 40s.
Yeah,
8
for an 8 point. And I'm just staring at him, and I'm like, if I would have bbeen drawn, he was close enough. If I would have been drawn, I think I would have shot him straight on.
Done a frontal.
Chest.
Yeah, I really think I would have.
Yeah.
But I wasn't drawn, and he was just, he was looking so hard for me. I was like, can't draw. So I got the camera on him, and he decides to turn, and he was going to go back where he came from. And he walked right out of the frame, and it was either, in my head, split-second decision. I was like, I can either move the camera over and maybe him see that and, jump off, or I can just draw my bow quick and get a shot at him. So as soon as he steps out of the frame, I drew my bow back. I rushed and took a really quick shot. And from what we know now, I'm pretty sure I hit him like right in the armpit. Low, still behind the shoulder, but just really low.
It's really low, like an inch
Yep.
above belly line.
Yep. So I hit that buck. I could only see him run off for another 20 yards after I shot him before he just disappeared through the thick stuff, and I never heard him crash. And I was like, man, I don't know. And we looked for him, didn't find him.
We've tracked blood for like
Yeah, he
150
bled.
yards.
He bled decent, but we're pretty sure it was just muscle blood.
Yep.
And
then he bed.
yep, he had one bed and then no blood after that.
And then we probably jumped him out of that bed, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we did too. And I don't think he would have died if we would have gave him like
No,
all
because
night.
there was,
back in the
there was
morning.
very little blood in
Yeah.
that bed. I think it
Yeah,
was just
so
a flesh wound.
I went
Yeah.
back after that. We searched for hours, and there was like 5 or 6 of us searching. So I mean, we covered the ground really good. I covered it. My dad and I actually covered it the next day
in the pouring rain.
in the pouring rain. Got permission on neighbors and went over there. And I mean, we looked everywhere. So I'm pretty sure that deer's still alive. Like 99.9% sure that deer's still alive. But after that, I mean, I didn't have deer to chase. I jumped into the waterfowl section and did a bunch of that just because I just didn't have there. You know, it's like we talk about. You can't chase a ghost.
You can't kill
Yeah.
a ghost.
So it's like, I mean, I missed a buck and I hit a buck and didn't find it. So in my head, I was like, that was my season.
Yeah.
You don't get
many.
you don't get a terrible
opportunities,
amount of
yeah.
opportunities. So I was content with that. I was okay with that. And so we get to now. I did just a little bit. I shot a doe in the extended gun season. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So, fast forward to now. All of a sudden, 3 weeks here before season's over, all my bucks are back. All of them came back, which is what I was hoping for
Yeah.
because they always come back, especially when you have them early season like that. So I'm buckling down with some, I've got some corn out. Why not?
Yeah.
And I've had them in daylight, odd times though, but I think. I mean, I've got a good shot to at least see one here in these last couple weeks of the season, so that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
But I had a good year regardless, so
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, if I don't get a shot at a deer, a buck before the end of the year, I am perfectly content with my season.
Yep. Cool. What are we at, Kev? So I kind of know.
We're at
46.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up in about 10 minutes.
Get a couple questions here.
I got some questions for you guys. So, let's see. I'll read through which ones that you guys have already answered. Okay, so give me 2 things. And I wrote this question because I knew both of you had opportunities that were missed.
Right.
So give me 2 things from each opportunity. And Jaret, you could just do 2 things. You don't do each deer that you learned from. So obviously, it didn't end up like you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had to tell somebody, these are the 2 biggest things that I learned from that mistake, what would it be?
You want me to go first?
I'll
or-
go.
Okay.
I got 2. So for mine, this year I did not shoot my gun before season to confirm it was on. I did in years past, and I was just like, well, it's in the safe. Nothing happened to it. Why would it be off? So first off, I would shoot the gun. That way I would know, because I would know it was
Listen,
me.
For anyone listening, you should always do this no matter what.
Yes. I was being lazy this year. Honestly, I was lazy.
I gave Kevin an earful for that one.
So definitely shoot your firearm to know that it is on before you go out and hunt. That was a stupid thing by my part. Number 2, don't rush the shot. Who cares if they get your wind? You might have an opportunity. It's not like you got a bow and 20 yards is going to make a big difference as far as not being able to get the shot off. With the gun, you can probably still make that shot happen. So don't rush yourself and sight your gun in. Make sure, confirm that it's on.
Jerry?
Yeah, and then for me, I am going to do a lot more unknown yardage shooting this year. I think that I rely on my rangefinder too much, which the rangefinder is an amazing thing. It allows you to be pinpoint accurate, but it's just not realistic in hunting scenarios because stuff happens so fast. So I'm going to practice, just, having a target out there and going forward and backward, not knowing the yardage, taking a shot at it, seeing how close I am, and then ranging it and just trying to get better at guessing the yardage. I think that's something that I need to be better at. I think that's something that everybody needs to be better at.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make that a point in my practice this year. And then also I did a ton of shooting this year and got a lot better with my bow in the preseason. I really dropped off on practice as the season progressed. Mm-hmm. I came into this season on a high. I took 2 shots in Kentucky, one at 72 and one at 46, both stellar shots.
punched them.
And then after that,
through the heart.
yeah, after that, I came into Ohio and I didn't hardly shoot my bow during the season. And I think that if you're going to stay at it, you need to practice just as much as you were in the preseason, because I kind of let that drop off, and then I missed a buck. I hit behind the pin, so that was fine. And then I hit a buck low. So it's like, you can't practice enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good you are. You can't practice enough.
I agree.
So I'm going to make it a point to, whether if it's 5 arrows a night, it doesn't matter. You need to have just a little bit of practice throughout your week, during the season, off season, whatever.
Yep. All right. So the next question that I have down is, name 2 things, or give me 2 things that you both thought you did well during the season. So like if somebody asked you, hey, what did you do that you're just happy? I don't really know how to word it other than what did you do well?
So I think at least one for me, being the first year self-filming or filming in general, the first thing I did when a deer would come in is get the deer on film first. I think that was fairly well for me. I'll have to think on a second one.
Yeah, that's fine.
For me, I did this year a lot better at thinking through the places that I sat and just really paying attention to terrain and the way, this after my incident with trying to hunt that 10 point and not being able to get the wind right and everything. I think then later in the season, it allowed me to really look at the terrain, how your thermals are going to work, mornings and evenings, how your wind is going to come through that spot. I really think that I honed in on that a lot better, and how I'm going to be looking at that going forward, being like, okay, if I'm going to sit here, I really got to watch this, because there's a slope or it's on the side of a hill. And I think that was something that I got more honed this year.
Cool.
Throughout this season.
Cool.
I don't know if I can think of another one.
I got a second one for me. So in years past, I've always kind of walked around the property and been like, well, that's a cool tree to hunt out of for this kind of situation, but I never hunted that tree or that area. Like I always confined myself to this one area that I would see deer consistently. And this year I bounced around throughout the property quite a bit to kind of get a feel for it. And some spots are pretty sweet, and other spots are like, well, this is a dumb spot. I'm not going to hunt this area for this time zone or this time period again. So I feel like I use the entire property better this year.
Yep.
I don't know if I got another one.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
I can't really think of anything. I mean, obviously you did things well, but on the spot, like, I mean, I had one for Kevin just because it popped in my head with Kim, and it kind of bounces back on what you were saying with utilizing your whole property. Is you found Kim, and I think maybe in years past you wouldn't have been so adventurous on moving cameras and hunting fresh sign and stuff, and without that.
Yeah, this year I moved cameras around a lot.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And years past it'd be like, well, this camera's on this area, and it just sat there, and I just go pull the card. But having cell cams is a big bonus too, because you get the immediate,
intel.
Yeah. So you move it and you get new intel there too. So that's a good thing.
All right, 2 things that you guys need to improve on.
Well, definitely.
And it kind of goes back to what you learned from, but if you had to throw like just 2 bullet points, what do you need to improve on?
Practice. Even the pros practice like crazy. It's just something that you need to ingrain into everything, is going through it more often, and that's the only way that you're going to get better. That's the one that was on top of my head.
Yeah. I think for me, like putting the past intel where the deer are at that point in time and hunt that area versus like, oh, maybe he'll show up here. Like go off of your past intel that you know you have. Because like this year for Kim even, like when he'd show up in this certain area, it's like, well, it makes sense then. Like after you think about it for a little bit or you look at some cameras, you're like, well, that makes sense why he's there. So instead of like that happening, be proactive and hunt that spot beforehand.
No, that's cool. No,
Yeah, and then another bullet point, like kind of going off of something that Kevin talked about, but finding the balance in your life outside of hunting can make your hunting life easier and more enjoyable. I mean, none of us, we don't hunt for a living. We have jobs, we have families. That stuff, well, I guess for me, I hunt a little more. I get to hunt a little more than most people, but that's just because of the situation that I'm in. But sometimes stuff just needs to take a higher priority over chasing a whitetail deer or whatever it is. And I think that if some people focus on that a little more, that they'll find that it makes hunting even better, because you enjoy it. I think you enjoy it more when everything else in your life is going good.
I'd agree.
I think that that's something people need to focus on.
That's a great point.
Even one time, so on Thanksgiving, we went out waterfowl hunting, and this was Black's first time. So the area we were at was iced over, and we didn't know that beforehand, but like we all had a great time. That was his first time going out, and just like the bond that we had with that, just like the social aspect of that was very cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
You boys and your ducks.
We'll get you out there, Maddie.
Oh, dude. I'm not gonna lie. If I was not, that would absolutely be the other thing that I would get into. Oh, absolutely.
Well, especially if we were in a better flyway zone or something like that.
If we lived somewhere other than Ohio, you might be in trouble.
Boys, listen.
You might be running born again waterfowl out here.
Listen. You boys and your ducks.
Dude,
It's a good
fun,
time,
man.
I've never been, and they keep wanting me to go.
It's just different. That's the thing, man. It's just like everything else. It's different.
Maybe next year we'll think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll do it next year.
All right. So the last question, kind of tie both of them together. So I'm kind of a gear nerd in a way, and I feel like we don't really talk about this much on the podcast. So one piece of your gear that you absolutely loved, can't replace, and then one thing that you're going to replace for next year.
So my main camera is a DSLR, and to run the focus and the magnification, it takes two hands. I would really like to get some that Matt has.
I borrowed Matt's for when I hunted yesterday all day.
Yeah.
Dude, I told you boys.
I know, but it's just like the investment, and like my camera I can take pictures with if we go on vacation and stuff. So like that was my justification for getting that, because I can use it for more than just filming my deer hunts. But
Kevy drops big money on a big lens, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I'd do that. But
so I think if I had to change something, if I can, it would be picking up a camera like what you got, like just a camcorder style, where you can put your VariZoom on your handle, and it's all just, you're moving the whole camera around and zooming in with it.
Draw your bow.
Yeah.
Take a peek. Yep.
So that's one thing I would like to change.
Okay.
One thing that I liked and worked well for me this year was, again, this is my first year filming, but my camera arm set up with the head and the arm. It's a Lone Wolf Custom Gear arm, so it's small and lightweight, and it's compact, and it fits in my backpack really good. And this is kind of tied into that, I guess, too, but like how I pack my bag. If you do the same thing every time, organization is key. You know where stuff goes, 100%. And it's just like muscle memory at that point, as far as
everything has its own pouch.
Getting your tether up there, and then the next part is hanging your camera on there, and then getting your bow up, or whatever your organization stuff is. But organization in your pack is key. But I really like that camera arm this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna get me one of those.
It's nice.
Jerry?
Yeah, one piece. I don't know. There's a good chance that I don't get to upgrade my camera this year. But that is definitely one.
Big time.
Or I might just not give Matt his back. I'm not sure which one. But one thing that worked really well for me this year, I think, was changing up my release. So I used to shoot a cheaper True Ball Rave is what I used to shoot. And it worked good for me. But spending the money on a more expensive release is really worth it, especially if you're going to really dive into it.
Yeah.
I am now shooting the UV button, the Ultra View button. I like the button for deer hunting. It does, I will say, shooting, because I'm shooting the hinge in the off season. I just wasn't sure about shooting a hinge deer hunting, which I may honestly change to this next season, is just shooting my hinge. But I do find myself punching with the button. I think if I work with it a little more, I think I can get over that. But my release was definitely the big gear update that I made this year that I think made a difference, is a quality release.
Yep.
But yeah, I would love to update my camera. I don't know that that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Cause man, whew. Cause if you're gonna
They
get the camera, you
pricey.
gotta get a Verazoom. I mean, come on now.
Mike and yeah.
But yeah, I think we'll see. And that might be it.
Cool.
Everything works good for me.
Cool.
Shooting darts.
Well, that's all I've got. If you want to wrap it up, Kev.
Yeah, I
Good.
think
You got
that's
anything
good.
else?
Unless you guys got something.
Nope. This was a good year for all of us. I mean, obviously not all of us shot bucks here in Ohio, but we did all shoot bucks,
Yeah.
this season.
Everybody killed a buck.
Only 2 guys shot them in our main state, but still, it was just an awesome year of
Yeah.
out of state trips.
It was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Next year will be even better.
Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
excited for this next season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm good.
Good. I'm good. Matt, you good?
I'm good.
Alrighty, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed and maybe you picked something up out of this podcast too for your next season. But doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You can always be born again, and born again is out.
Peace.